Hi, welcome to Glimpse TV. I'm Kate Northrup, and I am here with my friend Nisha Moodley, who is really a freedom expert and a freedom seeker and a freedom leader, I would say, for women who want to feel more free in their lives. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Is that what you do?
Sure.
So she leads amazing retreats all over the world, really, doing in-person deep dives into what makes us feel free. So it's so appropriate that we're having this conversation, actually, because you and I are kind of on similar trajectories, you know, with the same purpose.
Totally.
So, yeah. So how did you, was there a moment when you felt really stuck and then you felt like, sucks. I want to feel different. Like, what happened that this is your business?
So, I think every good mission has a really awesome hero or heroine's journey that's attached to it. So for me, I struggled for years with emotional eating. And it was when I was in my early 20s that I went through a breakup. It was the first time that I had ever lived with anyone. We were really in love. We thought we were going to get married. And we moved in together, and then we broke up, and I found myself navigating this big loss in my life. And I immediately turned to food, which I had always done. That was totally natural for me. I started eating really compulsively, but I, at that time, had this awareness like, whoa, wait a minute, this is really unhealthy, what I'm doing. And I think my vanity was playing in, thankfully, at that time as well. Like, oh, this is not going to turn out well.
Yeah.
And so I decided I needed another healthy vice. And I started doing yoga.
Oh.
So I got really into yoga and started to really heal my relationship with food and my body, and got really super passionate about nutrition and health and environmental sustainability. It just kind of all came together around that time. And decided that I was ready to take the leap and do something from a career perspective that was more aligned with my passion. I signed up for the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I started supporting women to find freedom with food, as I had done. And so fast forward a few years, I had been building my business, and I remember hearing the Dalai Lama quote, "The world will be saved by the Western woman." And I was like, awesome. And that's really confusing for me right now, because I'm trying to save the world. I'm doing this good work, right, that I put my heart into. And yet at the time I was a total workaholic. I mean, in the obvious sense, which is that I was working all the time. Yeah. But also I had this realization that I was actually working to avoid the things in my life that were painful or uncomfortable, or that I didn't understand what to do with. And I realized that that addiction with food that I had, that unhealthy relationship, was just playing out now with work.
Different advice, yeah.
And that, I wasn't emotionally eating, but there was a whole other level of freedom that I had not touched yet. And so I started to be an inquiry about which Western women, if we were going to save the world, which ones? Because it wasn't going to be those of us who were in our, in our ivory tower, kind of preaching something, but not actually living it, not being embodied teachers. And I realized if I was actually going to be a champion for freedom, I actually had to be engaged in creating expansion of my own freedom. So I set about to do that, and, really dove back into my spiritual practice, and started looking at all of the areas of my life, my money, my relationship, my family relationships, all these different areas of my life, even my own health at that point that I had been neglecting and avoiding, and just getting re-engaged so that I could actually be in the conversation with all the areas of my life. And so, but there were a lot of shitty points along the way.
How did you, I guess the inquiry is obviously one of the most important parts, like even becoming conscious that something needs to change. But around, so you and I hang out with a lot of women entrepreneurs. We are women entrepreneurs. That whole conversation around work, do more. how did you and how do you continue to dance with that while being ambitious and wanting to do big things? Also, I don't really love the term balance, but how do you stay in that dance, and what kind of questions are you noodling with right now around work and time and, you know, working hard versus all that stuff?
All that stuff. So one thing that I just decided to adopt was the belief that if everything is an ecology, then I can't so deeply sacrifice myself and my well-being in service of others that that's not actually being of service.
Right. And it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Ecologically speaking.
Totally. It's not sustainable. And so I have to be included in this equation. And so having that framework, from that, I just hold the belief that there is a way for me to be of service in a way that feels really enlivening and that I feel proud of, and also have a life and nurture and take care of my well-being, my joy, my self-expression, all of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that I really had to drop the idea that I just need to work harder and get more done, and then I can enjoy my life, and then I can turn my attention back to my self-care, and then I can work on this relationship.
Like the later. If I just do this now, then I can do it later.
Yeah, I think that one of the...
of life.
Exactly. And I think that's one sign of unfreedom.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfreedom.
Right? Deferred pleasure. The idea that there's some there out there. And so I needed to just stop trying to get life to prove to me that I could, like, okay, prove it to me that I can have a life and a business that's thriving, and be like, no, I'm going to stop asking life to prove it to me, and I'm just going to decide that that's true, and I'm going to live as if that's true, period. And I think a lot of us are like, well, show me how that works. I'm like, well, it works by you doing it. By you actually, it starts with you believing it.
Exactly.
And then living into that belief.
And like even saying, if I were to believe this, what would I do right now?
Totally.
You know?
That's great. Beautiful.
Yeah,
thing.
I think that's, I love that. It starts with believing a new thing.
Totally.
So what would you say that one of the things is that women get most stuck on in terms of keeping themselves in unfreedom?
So I think one place that there are a few places that we get stuck, but...
Feel free to name as many as you want.
Yeah. So one place is this win-lose mentality, which, again, totally unsustainable because there's losing. So it's ultimately lose-lose.
Right.
But this win-lose mentality that it can be this or that.
Yeah.
So I can have a great relationship or I can have a thriving business.
Yeah.
I can be healthy or I can, make money. And as long as we're in a this or that conversation around well-being, there's no well-being.
Yeah.
And so, you don't get to have your kids super grounded and healthy and thriving and you, falling apart at the seams.
Right.
Because they are you. They're feeling that.
Right.
We don't get to have, fabulous, amazing self-expression in our lives. And, I'm fully free and self-expressed, but I totally avoid my money and don't take care of it at all.
Right.
So there's a missing. And I think that any time that we're in a mentality around this or that when it comes to our well-being, we're missing something.
Yeah. So is one of the things that you do around work, like how do you carve out that that time or that space for self-expression and play and pressing pause when you do work from home and you do run your own thing, and we both know that there are an endless number of things that you could be doing and it will continue to be so forever.
Right.
So do you have a practice around stopping?
That's a really great point. It will continue to be that way forever.
Yeah.
So if I assume that this is my life happening right now, not my life is going to happen after I finish my work or after this launch or after whatever, then I have to live my life now.
Yeah.
So I think that it's so great to have rituals. I have a morning ritual, and an evening. I have a morning, evening, dinner for breakfast, breakfast for dinner. So silly. I have a morning ritual.
Yeah.
I have an evening ritual.
Yeah.
Those are untouchable.
Cool.
They do not include technology, for example.
Great.
There's an end time to work. And then if I need to come back later and tie something up, I end at that time. I go play. I go have go on a long walk and have a call with a girlfriend or whatever it might be. And then I can come back and tie up those loose ends. Yep. But, you know, I think creating really great grounding rituals and then starting and stopping points. And honoring ourselves that's time.
Totally.
You know, if you got to pick your kid up at school at 3 o'clock, you're not like, oh, well, you know, maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe, you know, you go 3 o'clock, it's 3. And so if work ends at 6, work ends at 6. And if you have to come back to it, you can come back to it. But you come back to it with some peace of mind and some space. And I also think that weaving more pleasure and play in throughout the day. So, you know, I'm constantly asking myself, how might I make this a little bit more pleasurable? And sometimes I ask myself in the moment, I realize I'm like this.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
Okay. One little thing that I love to do is keep a picture of myself when I was like 3, 4 years old by my workstation.
It's really smart.
And I just keep looking at her
Yeah.
and having her remind me
Yes.
what I need.
Love that.
And sometimes it means, I mean, one day I got this little knowing that I should put on my rubber boots and run outside. And it was pouring with rain. And I'm in the middle of my work day.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
So I put on my rubber boots and went outside and got soaked and jumped in puddles.
Yeah.
And had adults laugh at me and take pictures.
That's awesome. I love that.
And so, you know, I think that we can separate work and play, and I think we can also infuse play into our work so that they don't feel, so that work can feel more like play.
Totally. Beautiful. Yeah, it's like that part in A Course in Miracles, talking about making our brotherly relationships more romantic and our romantic relationships more brotherly. And it kind of helps break down that this or that, win or lose, like work and play and work. And people, you know, Mike and I are on this long trip right now, and people have been saying, is it business or pleasure? And I'm like, it's both. Yeah. Because business is very pleasurable. And
I have to say, one thing that made a huge difference for me is just not freaking out over my schedule. It's so simple.
There you go.
I used to look at my calendar and I'd be like, oh my God, this is so intense, and it's going to be so long, and it's going to be so hard. And at one point, I caught myself doing it, and I realized, wait a minute. I have had weeks that look like this before.
Yeah.
A. B, this is my dream.
Yeah.
Like, I'm living my dream.
Yeah.
I get to have this.
Exactly. I get
schedule.
to instead of I have to.
Yeah.
That's
huge.
And
I'm not just going to like barely survive this week. And especially if I decide that I'm going to barely survive, that my chances are I'm going to feel like I'm barely surviving.
So true.
And so in that moment, it's like something just flipped for me, and I just started looking at my calendar with like, oh, this is going to be great. And wherever it doesn't feel great, how can I shift that now in advance so that it feels more great? Yeah. And that has been game changing. And it was just... I didn't have to take a course to get that. I just needed to decide.
Yes.
That it was just flipping that mental switch.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So in your life right now, what are you doing that you're afraid of, but that you're doing anyway?
Oh, man. So for the past 4 years, I have run this 9-month mastermind, Freedom Mastermind. And I love it. It's beautiful. And this year I also ran a 9-month program for women who had been through the Freedom Mastermind called the Inner Sister Circle. And I got really clear a couple months ago. I kind of got the upgraded vision of where I'm headed. And I realized, okay, there's some things that I have to do to move myself into greater alignment with that vision. And it became clear to me that I couldn't do things the same way that I've been doing them, which I've loved. It's totally served me and the women that I serve up until this point, and now there's something that has to change. So I'm at that point where I'm going, okay, I'm letting go of the trapeze bars.
Yeah.
And, you know, creating new offerings for next year that move me more in that direction. Not just for my own, you know, my vision for the future isn't just me, it's family, it's, and it's, you know, the way that I'm serving the world and the impact that that creates. And so now in this place of letting go of the trapeze bar, and I'm hurtling through the air, flying towards the next one, but I'm not there yet. And it's a little exhilarating / scary, as it feels. Actually, if anybody's ever done trapeze, which I highly recommend, so scary, freaky, awesome. And so yeah, I would say that's a big one for me. Just changing my offerings, things that have been so stable that have totally supported me in the last several years, and that I love. I heard somebody say once, I don't remember who, if you or anybody watching this knows, I would love to know who said this. But they said, success is saying no to cooler and cooler shit.
I love that. I have no idea who said that. That's awesome. And
I'm like, okay. I mean,
feels really accurate.
Yeah. You know, it's one expression of it for sure. And so, to say no to doing things the way that I've been doing them, which I love. You know, I'm not saying no because I'm like, oh, that sucked. I'm like, wow, that was awesome. And I have to say no to some of it in service of what I'm saying yes to.
This would be awesomer. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And then this is the perfect question for you. When do you feel the most free?
You know, I feel the most free in the moments where I can see that I could so easily spiral into some like mental loop or story, and in those moments I don't harden, but I soften, and I can find that through line in myself where I feel just a deep okayness. And I think that strikes me as one of the moments that I feel the most free, because I can reflect on that feeling of deep inner security. And I can just feel proud of myself.
Cool.
Oh, I'm a woman who can feel so deeply secure, even in a moment of that in the past maybe would have totally rocked.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on my show. Yeah, so definitely check out Nisha's work, nishamoodley.com. She writes a beautiful blog, and you can find out more about her mastermind and her events there. Thank you, love, for coming on my show. I so appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation. Always so wonderful to hang with you.
Thanks.